Hey there, I am here today to talk to you about a conversation I had with God. I'm glad you're here. So, in May of this year, God told me to start this YouTube channel. But before I explain how that conversation happened, I want to give a little background of just about myself and about my relationship, the relationship that I had with God prior to this year. So I grew up a Christian. I've always known and believed in Jesus. I did not have a two-parent household, but I was raised by my aunt and uncle who went to church every Sunday. My uncle was a Sunday school teacher. We were in the choir. We did Bible study, like all the things. Like we were in church. I think it was a Pentecostal church. It was a small black church with a white pastor. And I went there all through elementary school. After that, I think we became Baptist, but either way, we were in church. So I was a believer always. I have a praying grandmother still today. So with that being said, I believed in God, in Jesus. I did not know God. Not until this year is when I had a real relationship with the Lord. And that came about, I'll share that in another video. Because this is about a conversation I had with him when he specifically told me to start this channel. But I do think it's important to share that prior to that conversation, I heard the Lord speak before. So the first time I ever heard God say anything to me was 20 years ago. I was pregnant. I was sitting in my bed in my room. I think I was folding clothes. I can't really remember, but I was doing something. I was sitting like Indian style or whatever, applesauce, crisscross, or whatever you're supposed to say now. But I was sitting up in bed. And there was something on the TV, like a sermon, some type of church something in the background. I wasn't watching it, but it was on. And I just remember that. Like, it was like one of those type of, I don't know if it was a commercial, but like, it's like when they sell like oil to heal you. I don't know. It was just one of those like things that I didn't believe. But it was just on. So out of nowhere though, I was folding clothes and I just heard, "Get down and pray right now." And I just sat and looked around and I was like, why? I remember saying, I was like, but like, what do I say? Like, I was scared and I didn't do it. I wasn't scared like the Israelites when they heard God and they thought they were going to die and they wanted to just, they said, let's hear from God through Moses. Like it was so powerful that they literally thought they were going to like combust and die. I didn't have that kind of fear, but it was scary. Like I felt like, I think the fear that I had was there's a God. And not that I didn't think that. I just can't even try to explain it, but I was scared. But I wasn't like terrified. And I didn't even do anything. Like I didn't do it. I didn't hear I didn't hear it again. There was no second command. I literally heard, "Get down and pray right now." I paused. I was just like, why? And I didn't do it. And I just carried on with life. I was pregnant. I was unmarried. I was living with my fiance at the time, who's my husband now. And we were just out here, not following the Lord at all. So I'm not sure why God chose to speak to me that day in that moment. But I will say that it always grieved me. Like just randomly every once in a while, I would think about that time that I didn't, especially when I needed God, I would remember that I didn't listen. So I had this fear or thought that I would never hear from him again. And I know now that was the enemy just, his schemes, making me believe that I failed and I wouldn't hear from God again. So fast forward, fast forward, I think about 11 years later, I heard God again. It was Christmas Eve. It was raining really bad. I had my window open. It was late. My husband and I were asleep in bed, and I got up to close the window. It was real windy and loud. So as I was shutting the window, I heard "Prepare for a Funeral." The exact same voice, like it was God again. And again, I was just like, okay. I just closed the window, got in bed, didn't do anything. I didn't pray. I didn't do anything. But the next morning, so we were hosting Christmas at our house. My family was in town from Maryland, and everyone was coming to our house for Christmas morning. So everyone showed up but my mother, and I knew that she passed. I knew that's who God was talking about. And I knew that before everyone showed up. Like I literally remember telling my husband, I knew something was wrong. I was told to prepare for a funeral. And so from there, life went on. I still was just a believer. My husband and I did not take our kids to church. We went to church every now and then. It was not consistent though. Like we went more than Easter and Mother's Day, but we weren't going to church. We were outside, doing any and everything, just far from the Lord, which I didn't know that though. Like I really thought that I was going to heaven. I thought that I was I didn't think I was a Christian. Like I considered myself a Christian because I believed in Christ. I believed in Jesus. And I thought I would be in heaven with mimosas and I was saying the most wildest things, claiming to be a Christian. But anyway, so that's not what we're talking about right now. But I'm just trying to convey that I still, I don't believe I was too far from God because I still knew who he was. I still had, I didn't have a reverence for him clearly because I was out there, but I knew of him, but no personal relationship. I did not have that until this year, 2024. So after the last time I heard prepare for a funeral, I hadn't heard from God and life was just lifing. And I was just out here going along with life. Towards the end of last year, actually this time, literally like Thanksgiving-ish last year, things just started to be really bad for me. And again, I won't go into those details right now, but I do just want to make it clear that I had started to need the Lord. And everything that I had done prior to him failed. Everything from businesses to just friends, family, not really family, but just every decision that I made, like life decision, apart from considering the Lord, failed, including my marriage. So I had found myself in a place where I was really needing him. So fast forward, I found him, he found me, and I was separated from the world. I was just, I had no social media. Like, again, I have to tell those details later, but it was just me and God. And still my husband, I still am married. And at this time, he saw what I was going through. And hopefully we can pause this and start over because anyway, because I'm getting off of the subject, but it's kind of hard to tell the story without saying those things, but let me get back on track. So life was lifing and I needed God. So fast forward to me hearing from God this year. I had been seeking him, literally, Matthew 6:33, seek first his righteousness, seek first the kingdom and his righteousness, and all will be given to you. I lived by that. Like I literally was like, I didn't want to do anything but read my Bible and try to cultivate a genuine, intimate relationship with God, because I didn't have that. And I knew that his way was better than mine. Everything I did failed, and I knew Jesus was the cheat code. So I was like, yeah, how do I get that? So I wanted to hear from God again, just in everything that I was now going to do. I wanted to consider the Lord and get his approval. And I knew the only way to do that was to have a relationship with him so that you can recognize his voice. So that's what I was doing. But it wasn't me only. Like he was also separating me. Like I didn't want to do anything but read his word. Anyway, it's hard to not go there, but that's what happened. Like I was only seeking God. So literally to the point, like I wanted to hear from God. I not Google, Chat GPT, the Bible one. There's a Bible one. If you don't have that, you should get it. It's a good app. So I put in there how to hear from God, and it said to hear. I was so irked. Like literally, the response was to hear, and I'm like, anyway, that made me so mad. But I continued to just seek him. I did John Bevere's Holy Spirit course. That's also really good. I was just doing things, like just engulfing myself in his word, just so that I could hear from him. And so my heart was literally just pure. Like everything else failed. I literally was like, God, I surrender. Yeah, it's us. Like, what are we doing? So with all that being said, one day I was walking my dog before I went to work. And again, because everything else had failed, I was at a place where, excuse me, where I was trying to figure out what was next. So I was like, okay, what am I going to do now? Because we had just dissolved a business that was very time consuming for me, because I do have a 9 to 5. And I also ran a business that took a lot of my time. And once we decided to dissolve that, I was just like, okay, what am I going to do now? So I was literally just walking my dog, just thinking of something else I would do to fill my time, because I was a person that had to be like busy all the time. Prior to that, though, I felt during my time of separation, I literally felt like hands on my shoulders, like just telling me to sit, like to not do anything. And I did do that for months. But this was May. And by May, I was just like, okay, what's next? So again, I'm just walking Cookie, talking to myself. And I had decided that I wanted to help married women. I was like, well, I'll use everything that I just went through with my husband, and help married women, because if you know me, then you know that I love marriage. Like it's a big part of me. Like anyway, that's neither here nor there. But that was something that I was very passionate about, which is something I need to discuss too later. But anyway, so I was thinking, because I had met this lady at my bonus daughter's wedding, who's married, and we're like the same age, and she's been married about the same time as me, and she had all these questions for me, just based on her interaction with Sean and I at the wedding. But she had no idea, like, ma'am, like we've gone through some stuff. So anyway, that made me think like maybe I should share, because I'm very private and I do not share, which is why this is even more insane to me. But here I am being obedient. Anyway, so that's what I thought. I was like, okay, great. I'm going to help married women. I had come up with this plan to go to Bible college and be able to be a counselor where I can counsel, biblically, married women. And I wanted to get ordained. I wanted to do vow renewals. I was all excited. And I'm like, okay, this should work, because this is going to glorify the Lord. This is good. I came home, told Sean, this was on a Wednesday. So let's just put a pin in that. Then Thursday, I went to the pool. I worked from home. I went down to the pool and set up my little area with my towel, got out my laptop, And as I was doing that, I heard, get down and pray right now. So I was just like, okay. So I did it immediately. I got down and prayed. It was the fastest prayer I've ever prayed. I just hurried up and prayed because I was at the pool. But I knew that I had to do it. So I did it, and I was so, so happy, y'all. Like, I was just so excited that I heard from God again. And it's interesting that he said the same thing that he told me before. Like, exactly. I don't know if it was exactly, but it was 20 years. I don't know if it was 20 years to the T, but 20 years ago, he said, get down and pray right now. So he gave me another opportunity, and I did it. So I prayed. It was quick, but I did it. Next day, I went to the pool again. I set up my stuff. Same thing. As soon as I sat down, like, to start working, I heard, get down and pray. Get down and pray right now. And I was like, really, God? And he said, if you love me, obey me. So, of course, I got down and I prayed. And this time I stayed longer. Like, I remember saying that I'm going to stay here longer. And so that somebody could see me, so that they could know, like, they could too pray and, submit themselves to God. So I did that. The next day was Friday. This is the day that when he told me to start this channel. I don't know if I'm going to go into detail about that conversation because it was a lot, and I already feel like this video is trash. So maybe this is just practice. But anyway, so the next day was a Friday. Well, side note, I went to the pool. So I went to the pool again. And as I was going into it, like opening the gate, I was like, now, am I going to have to pray every time I come to the pool? I did think that. And it didn't happen. He didn't say pray. So not that I was happy or not, but I was just like, is this what this is going to be? Anyway, so that didn't happen. I left. I went to get a smoothie. And as I was coming back, I was like, are you going to tell me to pray again? But he didn't. So that day I was meeting one of my best friends for dinner. Her birthday was earlier that month, and I had not seen her because, again, I've been separated from the world. The last time I had seen her was February. So we were going for dinner for her birthday, which was earlier that month. I went to get my nails done prior to us leaving, and in the nail shop, when I was just sitting getting my nails soaked off, the person doing my nails wasn't there at the moment, but he just set me up and left. So as I was sitting there, I was like, okay, God, so I'm going to go to Bible college. Like, I started just talking about what my plans were for this Bible women's, like, I wanted to do like boot camp, like where I don't know, but it was something like that. And then at the end, I was ordained, so I would be able to renew their vows, and it was great. That was my plan. And I was submitting that to God, but not asking. I just was saying, like, okay, I'm going to go to Bible college for 3 years. I'm going to do this and that. And as I was saying that, I heard, just share your story. And I'm still just like, oh yeah, but I'm going to go to Bible. Like, I was still just talking. And then God said, I'm not requiring that. So at that point, I was like, okay, like, we're talking. So I said, okay. And he said, read my word. And I was like, okay. And then he said, start a YouTube channel and share your story. And I was like, okay. I said, sure, I don't have to go to Bible school. I can self-teach. I can read your word and learn, but I can't start a YouTube channel. I said, I'm going to need help for that. Like, I can't do that by myself. He said, I'm not asking you to. So I was like, okay. So then I said, I can't remember the order, but once he said, I'm not requiring, so I said, well, I still have to go to Bible college because I was like, I need to know how to speak. Like, I need to know, like, what I'm doing. And he said, by whose standards? So I was like, oh, okay. And then I can't remember exactly the order, but I know I asked about the vow renewals. And I said, so what about the vow renewals? And he said, greater. And then I said, what can, like, so we're having a conversation, but was wild. So I'm talking to God, but then I tried to like subconsciously talk to myself, because when he said greater, I was like, greater? Like, what could be greater than marriage? But I didn't know like he could hear me. I know that's weird, but that's what happened. And he said, don't put me in a box. So I was like, oh, okay. He said, glorify my name. Then I asked about a dream. I don't want to share that, but I had a dream the night before, and I wrote it down, and I never did that before. That was the only time I've ever, well, the first time I've done it since. But I had a dream, and it was something specific that I asked about, and I asked, and he answered it. Like, that was crazy. And then after that, I asked about the school again. I said, okay, so what if I want to go to the school just for me? And he said, you don't need the debt. And I was like, oh, alrighty. And then, I mean, it wasn't that simple. Like it got to a point where, cause I got very overwhelmed. Like when I realized like I'm talking to God, like this is the conversation. Like it got to where I was just like, okay, like, am I talking to myself? Like I didn't know, like I was rambling. So I'm like, I know he was like, man, like calm down. But it got weird to where I felt like he left because I just was like talking my own self out of it. So that when I like calmed down, I heard, don't get a drink. And I was like, wow, like it's crazy because I was going with my friend who I was for sure getting a drink. Like I knew that I was getting me an ice cold Prosecco. Like I had thought that, like I knew that I was getting that. So when he said that, I knew it was God. I mean, I knew it was God anyway, but for sure that was like the stamp on it for me to know, yeah, it was him. So fast forward, I went to dinner with my friend, and of course she ordered a cute little cocktail, and I got water, and she said, Christians don't drink. And I was like, well, Jesus turned water into wine, so yeah, but I'm just not gonna get a drink. And I think that God did that for my witness, because this was the beginning of my sanctification process. Like he was sanctifying me and just changing me. And I think that, well, I know that our witness is very important. And she proved it immediately by saying Christians don't drink. Not that, and I'm not even trying to debate that, but God knew that that would be important in that meeting for me to look different, for me to look like I'm following him. Because before I would have for sure got several drinks. So I obeyed and I didn't, and I don't think that I've had a drink. Well, I probably have had wine since, but I've had the desire, like now I do not drink. I just don't want to. So I think it's important to mention the multiple ways that you can hear from God, because of course God speaks to us in several different ways. It can be audible, it can be through other people, through dreams, and for sure through his word. So after I asked God about going to Bible college and he said no, in the nail shop, because I asked twice. I don't know if I shared that in the beginning, but I said, when I first said it, he said, I'm not requiring that. Then I said that I wanted to go because I felt like I needed to, like to do this, that I needed to have some type of background and knowledge. And he said, I'm not requiring that. But then I also asked again and I said, what if I want to go just for me? And that's when he said, you don't need the debt. So I think I did share that. But even after that, so on that day, that was May 31st, June 4th, so 4 or 5 days later, I was in the shower, literally still asking about that. Like I was like, well, you didn't say no. You just said I didn't need the debt, but you didn't say no, I couldn't do it. So after my shower, I was doing my daily reading. I was in Acts. I was on chapter 5, I think. I had already read chapter 4, but for some reason I decided that I wanted to go back and read chapter 4. So I just wanted to share another way that God speaks to us through his word. So in Acts chapter 4, verse 13, it says, when they saw the courage of Peter and John and realized that they were unschooled, ordinary men, they were astonished, and they took note that these men had been with Jesus. So when I read that, I was just like, they were unschooled, ordinary men preaching, because that's what they were doing, giving the gospel to everybody. They didn't have to go to Bible school for that. So I paused and realized that. However, when I read the commentary says, you can receive extensive formal theological education and have degrees after your name. But if you've never been with Jesus in a spiritual relationship and enrolled in his school of discipleship, you'll make no lasting spiritual effect on others. So I said, okay, God, I would never bring up going to Bible school again. I don't need to go to seminary. It's clear. The only school I need is his word. So that helped me in that thought, but it also helped me realize, which I knew, but just a confirmation that the Bible is alive, because literally, like, I was in the shower asking God again about going to school, and the word that I read that day answered my prayer, or my question. So I want to make it clear that God speaks in various ways, but you have to have a relationship with him to be able to discern and know that it's him. For me, I started this process because, you'll pray, and like, I have this conversation with plenty of people, and people will say, even myself, like, I prayed, but I don't know what the answer was, or I didn't hear anything. And that's because you don't have a relationship, or you may not have a relationship with God to recognize his voice. So I think it's important that I stress that, seek him first, seek his kingdom with a pure heart, and you will for sure hear from God, however he chooses to speak to you. Because he speaks in his way and in his timing. But if you don't know what he sounds like, you'll miss it. So that's something I'm going to be talking about on this channel for sure, is a genuine heart and relationship with the Lord, because that's literally the cheat code. That's the only way to get through this life. And I also wanted to share that after that conversation with God, a month later, or a little less than a month, in June, I met the person that's helping me with my YouTube channel. She has become one of my best friends, and she is my right hand girl, who is encouraging me along with my family, but she's helping me with this YouTube because I couldn't do it without her. So God literally sent someone, and I believe other people as well. But he said, I'm not asking you to, because I said I cannot do this by myself. He said, I'm not asking you to. And the way that we met was God, like 100%. And I'm for sure going to tell that story. But I just wanted to say that here, that if you obey and trust in the Lord, he will provide. He said I would not have to do this by myself, and he sent somebody quickly. So, okay, bye for real.